Friends, saddened by the departure of Sam's soul, we gather to say goodbye to him. Accomplished and devoted, caring and determined, Sam was for years an active presence within our midst and obviously an anchor of his family. Our rabbis teach, weep for the mourners, not for the soul that is gone, it to its repose, we to grief. Thus Sam's beloved family and friends, and the members of our congregation and community recall the many vital decades of his life, a life rich in devotion to family, to remembrance, to Jewish life. For death has taken Sam, beloved husband of Phyllis, father of Beth, Richard, and Joan, father-in-law of Alan, Rachel, and Andre, grandfather of Sarah, Zev, Mia, Isaac, Eli, Ruby, Olivia, and Ariella, grandfather-in-law of Andy, Melissa, Michelle, and Melissa, great-grandfather of Sophie, Lucy, Daphne, Dahlia, and Aviva. For his companionship that was shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance, for chemistry labs and phone calls, for all these and more, we give thanks to God. We know that all things pass, all that lives must die, all that we prize is but lent to us, and the time comes when we must surrender it. We are travelers on the same road that leads to the same end, acutely aware of life's ultimate brevity, even at the age of 99. Today, we who likewise travel that well-worn road turn to the rituals of Jewish tradition. For in times of joy and in times of sorrow, the Jew searches not for platitudes or easy answers, but for justice and compassion and for God. Hence, amidst mystery and grief, we lift our voices in comfort and hope. The psalmist teaches in Psalm 15, Adonai, mi yagor b'ho'lecha, mi yishkon b'har kodshecha. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them, or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless, but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. The psalmist also teaches, I lift up my eyes to the mountain, is the source of my help. My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Esa enai el hecharim, me'ayin yavo Izri. Esa enai el hecharim, me'ayin yavo Izri. Shamayim va'aretz, Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim va'aretz. This psalm is included in our funeral liturgy as it concludes, God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. We invite forward Sam's son-in-law, Alan, to lead us in, to be chanting the 23rd Psalm.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai lo echsar, bino deshet yarvitzeni, al memnuchot yenacheleni, nafshi shoveh Yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shmo gam ki elech b'geat mavet gam ki elech b'geat mavet Lo irara ki ata imaditi. Shivdecha umeshantecha mehema yenachameni. Tarof lefanav shulchan neged tzorai. Dishanta v'shemet roshi, dashna v'shemet roshi. Dishanta v'shemet roshi, kosi revaya. Af tok v'chesed, Yirfuni kol yemei chaya, v'shavti b'veit Adonai, leorech yamim. With God as my shepherd, I rest in green pastures. God leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. Therefore I shall not want. I walk in right paths for the sake of thy divine name. And even when I walk in the valley of the death's shadows, O God, I shall not fear, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You have prepared a table before me, even in the presence of my enemies, and you have anointed my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Surely goodness and mercy will pursue me as long as I live, and I shall dwell in your house forever.
L'kol zman ve'et tachat hashemayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Et ledaber. We are taught that words matter. Our preeminent prayer, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. The proverb teaches a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Our first speaker, Sam's son, Rick Klausner.
Father gives many things to their children, and the relationship between a father and son can be incredibly complex. But the gift my father gave me was the gift of science, the person who I decided to be, what I chose to do. It began with conversations as far back as I can remember, and they seem to be the most private of conversations just between the two of us about chemistry. And then he invited me to join him at his lab. I went on to have many labs, but this lab was really special. It seemed magical. Of course, it was just a bunch of glassware on top of some 55-gallon drums in the corner of his father's yarn business. And he didn't give me projects. It wasn't a science fair. He had a business to run, and he was going to teach me chemistry. And I learned water analysis. I don't know if I was 5 or 6 or 7. I know I stood on a chair and learned to use the equipment. And the results, he said, were real. And I would listen to him while we were there talking about science and chemistry. And there was just an awe to it. It was clearly something he loved. He talked about it differently than anything else he ever talked to me about. He was interested in it, but he also reviewed it, and I knew it was important. But there was one third thing, and to this day I don't know whether I've made this up, but I always thought he was disappointed that he hadn't been the scientist he dreamt of. And for as long as I can remember, I decided I would be that scientist for him. And so I went on, and I became a scientist, and through all the honorary degrees and awards and presidents and kings, etc., they were never finished until I called my father, and I told him what had happened. Just 3 weeks ago, I was here, and we sat. It was the last real conversation we had, and he wanted to know what was new, and I told him about some breakthroughs, amazing breakthroughs, of a company of mine that's developed a test, finally, a universal test to measure anyone when they have early cancer. And he immediately looked at me and he said, "How many parts per million does that mean?" But at that time, he did say, "That's good." And it felt good. I was able to share as much as I could with him, bringing him to the National Academy when I was inducted so that he could meet some of his heroes, 2 Nobel laureates that amazed him, Lars Onsager and Glenn Seaborg, the Nobel Prize-winning discoverer of new atoms. And I got to introduce him, and he was there. It was a journey I tried to take together. I was thinking today, 24 years ago tonight, I sat outside of Tel Aviv, someplace, I still don't know where it was, and on a secret mission on behalf of Bill Clinton, who was president at the time, I sat there with the health ministers of Israel, Jordan, Egypt, 2 from Palestine, one was Yasser Arafat's brother, Lebanon, Turkey, and Cyprus. And I was there to try to make a breakthrough after Oslo, because nothing happened. I had never done anything like this before, and I had no idea how to start. So I started with my father. I told them how I became a scientist because of him. And here I had told this personal story, and they're all looking at each other. That's not what happens in diplomatic negotiations, particularly in the Middle East. But because I had done that, they all had to go around the table telling their own stories. And it worked. One had lost a child to leukemia. One's wife had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And we came together 6 months later in Geneva. We all signed what to this day is the only signed multilateral agreement ever in the Middle East. It didn't create peace, but it did create something. And that story, my story, Sam's story, I viewed and I told him about it. That's how we got going. So, a long journey. I'm going to miss you.
As if we needed a further proof that nature has the last word. Still, we are so privileged to hold Dad's memorial service where he wanted it to be, here at B'nai Israel, even if this is an unorthodox hour for a service. Although it's quite hard to distill into a few words the richness of such a full and engaged life. As a daughter of a chemist, I came here with 3 distillations: scientist, ethicist, soldier. A soldier, of course I knew some of his war stories early on, so vivid that I actually had a visual memory as a young child of marching knee-high to khakis and army boots. And I was not born before the war or during the war. It was his language that just gave me the image. But also a soldier in getting through difficult times, managing all the family losses of his generation. He also soldiered through a bout with cancer in his early 90s and a heart procedure at 96, in the hope of being able to be more strong and supportive of our mother, Phyllis, his wife and life companion. Ethicist, the clear, unwavering sense about the decent way one treated people in the workplace and in the world. At large, this word was truly his bond, his word. And as a scientist, an observer of all kinds of phenomena, I especially remember his twilight relaxation with cigar. As light fell and the world emerged in a different light, it offered him a pleasure and a calm at the end of the demanding days that he spent at Petricon Chemical Company, his company. And I thought that Jane Kenyon's poem might do the same for us here tonight, and it is called Let Evening Come. Let the light of late afternoon shine through chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the cricket take up chafing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back to its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. Let evening come. To the bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to the air in the lung, let evening come. Let it come as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless, so let evening come.
Joan?
So interesting to listen to my siblings, what they had to say, and there's definitely themes that we share. But I woke up in the middle of the night last night, and for some reason I was thinking about prisms. And what came to me was that each of us get a refracted view of each other, you know. We see different things, we experience each other in different ways. And, I had to be thinking about my view of my father. And, the first thing, of course, is that it really was a privilege to be Sam's daughter. I always felt incredibly loved and cared for, and that I was just so important to him. The things that I took from my father are lessons that he embodied throughout his entire life. They were compassion, kindness, and honesty. And I like to think that I might have gone overboard on the honesty when I once caused a slight rear-ending accident and immediately admitted it was my fault. And the Allstate person said, "You didn't have to do that, I said, "No, I did." Love of family, love of nature, love of animals, those were all gifts that he shared with us. And as my sister and brother have talked about, his experience in the war, his war stories, they do not belong just to him any longer. He was really thoughtful in the way that he passed them along to us. And I was aware, even when we were very young, that most men of his generation didn't necessarily talk about their war experiences. And I knew he wasn't telling us everything, but he shared them. And he was willing to share them and weep, and we would weep. And we incorporated those stories. He let us know him through those stories, and they became part of us. And I think almost everyone in our family has written down those stories, has recorded him. And that is an extraordinarily precious gift that he gave us. So that was part of the prism through which I saw him. They signified Sam's views of what was terrible in life and what is wonderful and beautiful in life. So maybe a couple months ago, a friend passed along a poem to me, and it was about being an adult means that you've arrived at a place where you can hold grief in one hand and gratitude in the other. And I really resonated with that poem in many ways. When I think of my father, when I think of Sam, the gratitude I've had for him being my father so far outweighs the grief that I might feel. I am so honored to have been his daughter and to have had him in my life for so many years.
Sev?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I still write on yellow notepads. And because I'm a songwriter, I tend to make things like verses and chorus. So, to Grandpa, clearly your life was well lived. You laid down the diligent groundwork for so many of us in this room to thrive and to follow our dreams and passions. 99 years and 99 days, dedicated to our whole family, and especially Grandma. 99 years and 99 days. Our archivist, our navigator, and before that, a reliable and honorable warrior for 99 years and 99 days. A chemist, an ethical businessman, a traveler, a veteran, and of course, a proud Jew for 99 years and 99 days. It's hard to... He implored the family to stay together and to grow together and to pass that forward to the next generation. And he made it possible for us, humbly, through his actions. And we'll forever love him. Thanks for coming, guys.
My notes are Isaac Eli.
Iule ratzon in refi ve'yon libi lefanecha Adonai suvi ve'goali Adonai suvi ve'goali May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Iule ratzon in revi ve'yon libi lefanecha Adonai suri ve'goali Adonai suri ve'goali
The poet has written, "Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we pray, to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan. God, you have given, you gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach. God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, for which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love as we say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. And we take this moment to pray in silence. Friends, a well-known prayer taken from the Psalms begins, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha. Happy are those who dwell in God's house. Whether as a Brooklyn kid, proud of his lineage, a member of the Orthodox Fleetwood Synagogue or Lincoln Park Jewish Center, and certainly here, Sam, a.k.a. amongst the people Israel as Shmuel ben Mordechai Vasara, certainly did his part to further this hope. Happy are those who dwell in a house of God. The beautiful mezuzot for this sanctuary and for my office were crafted by Beth. That was no accident. Indeed, Sam spent a lot of time here. For several years, he chaired our Memorials and Dedications Committee, stood with fellow veterans at special ceremonies, and studied Bible, Midrash, and contemporary issues. He was bright, insightful, calm, and good-humored. His rectitude and decency engendered esteem and friendship. Indeed, our staff and our volunteers, our lay leaders, they adored him. More than one, including today's soloist Rachel, frequently sharing that Sam was adorable. And I know he was known to be handsome. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, happy are those who dwell in God's house. Hence, notwithstanding, as Beth has explained, the several challenges necessitating our gathering for this service at this unusual hour, we purposefully gather here within these specific walls to retell and to commemorate. Of course, this most sacred spot in God's house houses our Torah scrolls. Today, Jews read the forceful tale of how Jacob and his mother Rebekah plot to steal a blessing intended for Jacob's twin brother Esau, causing much tumult. Yet the narrative shows the discerning student how the biblical figures hadn't actually schemed their way into the true blessing. That's because God's blessing can't be transferred through deception. It requires integrity. We are taught, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Torah demands integrity, as articulated not only in sacred study, but in every realm of his life. Sam, too, possessed an inherent balance in what was right and fair and how people should be treated. Sam was born at home in Brooklyn in 1920 to Max and Sarah, immigrants from Europe. His dad being, as we've heard, in the yarn and textile business. A middle child, separated by 5 years from his older brother Mitchell and by 5 years from his younger brother Howard, both of whom predeceased him. It was a happy childhood within a close, loving, extended family. Sam's grandfather, Shimon Fain, exerted a profound influence upon him. Shimon had himself walked to Palestine with his grandfather. He nurtured Sam's strong sense of yichus, of connection to family and Jewish learning. That palpable pride extended not only to his famous Israeli cousin Amos Oz, but also to the many achievements of his children and grandchildren. For example, I have to suspect, and this is true, Richie, I knew about the meeting with the Israeli officials more than probably what they knew on their actual schedules. There were no leaks from Southbury. Sam graduated from Erasmus Hall High School and entered Brooklyn College, where he studied, as we know, chemistry. Athletic and a runner, there's a picture of him winning a race during his Army service. Beginning his career in 1941, Sam was with a private lab in New Rochelle, figuring out making blueprints in different colors when he was informed of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Within days, Sam had signed up with the Army, remaining in the service until his discharge at the end of 1945. The Army first sent him to graduate school at Ohio State and Tulsa University so he could master chemical warfare and test petrochemicals for when recovering enemy stashes. Sent to Britain in 1942 in anticipation of the invasion of Europe, he arrived in Normandy D-Day +20 with troops still under fire. He once told me about the rough camping conditions, especially for a guy from Brooklyn. Sam was involved in many battles, including the Battle of the Bulge, where he was lost behind German lines. He saw the liberation of Paris, was one of the last to cross into Germany over the Rhine on the Remagen Bridge, and was part of the Army of Occupation. As a Jew in an anti-Semitic time, he was frequently detailed for individual and very dangerous duty. He was shot at while testing at an enemy fuel depot. On another mission, Sam thought his life had come to its end when he spotted some 200 to 300 German soldiers approaching. Just then, they started to pull off their shirts and wave white flags of surrender to an American. Sam took charge, maintaining order until reinforcements, including everybody else, arrived. Demobilized at the end of 1945, he was at his parents' vacation home in Mahopac, built with a small chemistry lab for him in the back, when in 1947 he was introduced to Phyllis. Set up by a couple whom had adopted 2 Jewish refugees hidden by nuns during the war, it was a quick romance for Sam and Phyllis. They wed in the beginning of January 1948, enjoying a long marriage of mutual devotion, companionship, and respect. Beth, Rich, Joan, and then their generations followed. Sam's professional life also flowered. Soon he left his position at Canadian Uranium to establish his own company, Petrocon Chemical, specializing in water analysis. His extensive contracts included the MTA, the airports, and the World Trade Center. It took him all around New York. Indeed, it was teased to me that he was the original Waze, knowing how to get anywhere in the city. Anywhere. The family lived in Lower Westchester. Sam was, as we've heard, a supportive father. His children's first introduction to science coming through chemical analysis in his labs. And from family to business, as we know, he lived by a code of behavior and honor. So too tellingly, as a baseball fan, while living close to Yankee Stadium, Sam remained close to his Brooklyn roots, first loyal to the Dodgers and then to the Mets. Sam was a reader who enjoyed mysteries for recreation. He was also a dedicated conservationist whom, when hiking, could identify every tree, leaf, or wildflower. Interested in the world around him, even at a venerable age of 95, Sam was capable of personal development. Having been told at the age of 5 that he would best be a listener, after Beth's friend rewrote his grade school report card At the age of 95, Sam started to sing. Assuredly, throughout his life, Sam kept closely abreast of the news and politics. True to his personal experiences and service as part of the greatest generation, he abhorred fascism and was concerned over its antecedents. Sam was proudly part of Southbury's Democratic Party, and he was a Zionist, proud of Israel and the Jewish people, and helped to pass this consciousness of Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha and the Torah's values to his descendants. Reasonable, patient, and steady, he radiated authority and understanding, kindness and justice. From his dear ones, from work and community and service to others, he sowed and reaped happiness. To Phyllis and Sam's family, who supported him not only through the past week as his health precipitously fell, or through a diminishment of recent years, but through the decades, we say, nothing so ennobles us as the will to love, to share, to nurture connection, and maintain our obligations. Sam and you have done all that. Another blessing we often sing in this house of God is Patach Libi, open our hearts to Torah. We now pray that at this hour, in this house of God, having done precisely that, a Torah of righteousness and dedication, may Sam's soul rest peacefully, now reunited with the source of life. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will.
Patach libi b'toratecha, Patach libi b'toratecha, uve'mitzvotecha, uve'mitzvotecha. Tirdov nafshi, asileman shemecha, asileman yemanecha, asileman kedushatecha. Aseleman Toratecha, Yiyu leratzon, Imre fivegyo, Libi lifanecha, Libi lifanecha, Adonai, Suri vegoali, Asileman shemecha, Asileman yemenecha, Asileman kedushatecha, Asileman
Friends, we reconvene in the morning at 10 a.m. at Farban Cemetery in Morris. We call forward the pallbearers, Zev Haber, Eli Klausner, Isaac Klausner, Michael Klausner, David Klausner, Daniel Klausner. While the ancient Egyptians literally sought to hoard and bring treasures and slaves into the afterlife, Judaism counseled otherwise. The Mishnah teaches, at the moment of our departure from this world, neither silver nor gold nor precious stones accompany us, only learning and good deeds. Assuredly, Sam arrives on high amidst much knowledge and dedication to others and to our people. Here is a poetic rendering of the prayer that I will momentarily chant. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May his memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May his death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. We rise to conclude our service with the traditional El Malei Rachamim prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Baromim, Hamse Menucha Nuchona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kadoshim Toharim Kazoa Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Shmuel Ben Mordechai Vasara Shahalach La'olamo, Baal HaRachamim Yastiretu B'tzedek Ne'efav Le'olamim, V'yitzur B'tzur Chaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'shalom Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen.